The case of Anatoly Moskvin. The Russian dollmaker Anatoly Moskvin, a Russian historian and linguist, became infamous for his macabre obsession with death and the dead when authorities discovered that he had exhumed the bodies of at least 29 young girls and turned their corpses into dolls. Dubbed the Russian dollmaker by the media, Moskvin shocked the world when his gruesome activities came to light in 2011. His bizarre motivations, disturbing actions, and unique psychological profile make his case one of the most unsettling true crime stories in recent history. Early life of Anatoly Moskvin. Anatoly Yuryevich Moskvin was born on September 1, 1966, in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia. From a young age, Moskvin displayed an unusual fascination with death and the occult. In interviews after his arrest, Moskvin claimed that his obsession began when he was 13 years old, after attending the funeral of an 11-year-old girl. He recounted being forced by adults to kiss the dead girl's face, an experience that profoundly affected him, and may have been the catalyst for his later fixation on cemeteries and the dead. Moskvin was an intelligent and academically accomplished individual. He earned a degree in linguistics from Moscow State University, spoke 13 languages, and was considered an expert in Celtic history and folklore. He also worked as a journalist and contributed to several publications, often writing about history, cemeteries, and death rituals. However, his scholarly interests hid a darker side, as Moskvin spent much of his free time wandering cemeteries, documenting graves, and eventually exhuming bodies. The grave robbing begins. Moskvin's obsession with cemeteries escalated over time. He visited over 750 cemeteries in the Nizhny Novgorod region and kept meticulous records of the graves he visited. His fascination with the dead eventually took a more sinister turn when he began exhuming the corpses of young girls, mostly between the ages of 3 and 15. Moskvin claimed that his actions were driven by a desire to resurrect the girls, although his methods were far from conventional. Between 2003 and 2010, Moskvin exhumed the bodies of at least 29 girls from local cemeteries. He took their remains back to his apartment, where he attempted to preserve them. Moskvin dressed the corpses in elaborate, handmade clothing and placed masks over their faces. He stuffed their bodies with rags and other materials to prevent decomposition, turning them into what he referred to as dolls. Moskvin would later claim that he was drawn to these girls because he wanted to give them a new life after death. He believed that their spirits were still present and could be brought back through various occult rituals. In interviews, Moskvin stated that he was deeply lonely and had long wanted children of his own, particularly daughters. He claimed that he viewed the girls as his family. The discovery of the dolls in 2011, Russian authorities were investigating a series of grave desecrations in the Nizhny Novgorod region. After several years of mysterious disturbances at local cemeteries, police received a tip that led them to Moskvin's apartment. What they found inside was beyond anything they could have imagined. Moskvin's apartment was filled with dolls, which were later revealed to be the mummified remains of young girls. Each corpse had been carefully dressed in bright, colorful clothes, and their faces were covered with masks made to resemble dolls' faces. Some of the dolls had music boxes inserted into their chest cavities, so they would play music when moved. The bodies were posed throughout the apartment as if they were part of Moskvin's daily life. Authorities were horrified to discover that Moskvin had meticulously preserved the bodies using various techniques, including drying them out with salt and baking soda. He claimed that he often spoke to the bodies and treated them as though they were still alive. He had also kept personal items belonging to the girls, such as their clothing and gravestone plaques, which he displayed alongside the mummified remains. Arrest and psychological profile. Moskvin was arrested in November 2011, and during his interrogation, he calmly confessed to exhuming and preserving the bodies. He explained that his intention was not to harm or desecrate the girls but to resurrect them through occult practices. Moskvin claimed that he would never have committed such acts had he known another way to bring the girls back to life. The psychological analysis of Moskvin revealed a deeply disturbed individual. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found to be suffering from delusional beliefs related to resurrection and the supernatural. Moskvin had long been obsessed with death, but his mental illness had driven him to act on these beliefs in increasingly disturbing ways. Moskvin later told authorities that he had been waiting for a sign that would indicate the time was right to bring the girls back to life. He believed that if he could find the right scientific process, he could resurrect them. Trial and sentencing due to his mental illness, Moskvin was declared unfit to stand trial and was instead committed to a psychiatric facility for treatment. He has been held in a psychiatric hospital since 2012, where he continues to receive treatment for his schizophrenia. Over the years, there have been attempts by Moskvin's legal team to have him released or transferred to a less restrictive facility, but these appeals have been denied. Authorities and psychiatric experts argue that Moskvin remains a danger to society due to the nature of his crimes and his continuing delusions. Public reaction and legacy. The case of Anatoly Moskvin shocked not only Russia but the world. His actions, though not violent in the conventional sense, were so bizarre and unsettling that they drew widespread media attention. The idea that someone could live among the bodies of dead children, treating them as dolls, was a concept too grotesque for many to fathom. The case also raised questions about how society handles mental illness, especially in individuals who do not exhibit outward signs of violence or aggression. Moskvin was clearly suffering from severe delusions, yet his academic accomplishments and quiet lifestyle had allowed him to hide his disturbing activities for years. The parents of the girls whose bodies Moskvin exhumed were devastated by the revelations. Many expressed horror and outrage at the fact that their daughters' remains had been desecrated in such a way. In some cases, the families had to rebury their children after the remains were recovered from Moskvin's apartment.